Yo, what's up? You've tuned into the podcast once again. Today we're joined by a very cool ambient artist and composer, someone who is very, I feel like they're in the scene a bit, in the total professional side of ambient, which is really interesting, and I feel like that might where it go. The episode might go today, but this is a new friend, new artist discovery, so let's check out Michael D. Tidwell. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so it's really like a laid-back type podcast. I just like to open it kind of officially, and then it divulges into nothing, really. So don't worry about anything too formatted or whatever, you know.
No worries. It's all good. Absolutely.
So I don't know much about you, but I gotta say, I don't just podcast with anyone. So, I heard your music and was like, fuck, this is like what gets bought. This is like that licensable ass ambient. This is super commercial and super well done in the most professional sense of ambient music. And I was just like, fuck, I gotta talk this guy's ear off for a minute.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Totally. So I don't know nothing about you. So tell me about your very introduction into music. What made you be like, oh, I'm gonna start? I see some synths and keyboards behind you. I don't know what else you play, but how did this whole journey start of making ambient music, at least?
Yeah, 100%. So the start with ambient music actually got placed last year. Last year was actually my very first introduction into ambient music. I had gotten laid off during COVID time, which caused me to internalize my feelings, process a lot of things that were going on, especially with me musically. I come from a background of a lot of electronic music, dubstep, pop, hip hop, that sort of deal. And, this genre didn't really expose itself to me until after COVID. I explored a playlist called Compositional Ambient, and it's a playlist that gets updated very, very frequently with, the hottest names when it comes to ambient music. And so I took a step back. I was just like, you know what? I've done this style for many, many years, and I wanted to try something different. So I completely rebranded myself in 2022. Reached out to a lot of different people, a lot of singers, and, started this revolution of this vocal ambient style that no one is really doing to the maximum of what they can do. And so I explored that, and I found out along the way that, the singers that I were working with was getting really attracted to it. They were very well versed in providing their vocals on top of my music, and it seemed very seamlessly with me layering this foundation of music that they can just collaborate on very easy. And it just all came together. Over time, I started to experiment with different sounds and different styles of ambient, but it all just kind of came to this flow that is kind of just crazy. So
it's super cinematic.
Thank you so much.
It feels like movie soundtracks, especially the latest one, Landed, with Alex Ray. And I've noticed you have a couple other singers on there. I was like, it's this vocally, it's just cinematic as fuck.
Thank you so much.
There's nothing else to really describe it. And the album covers are all so fitting. And I was just diving through the Instagram. I'm trying to show my girlfriend hey, yeah, I'm doing this ambient guy in a little bit, and yeah, it's super cinematic. And it was just all different clips for Landed. I'm just oh wow, it's all the same song, but it's all super fitting and shit. It was just really well done. And so you said you used to do more hype shit. You were more in dubstep and whatnot.
Yeah, so I got my start with music with a lot of the electronic vibes. I was doing a lot of pop and hip hop. I was doing a lot of dub step, and also diving into chill electronica and lounge music.
So give me a origin story. Give me a super young Michael
Yeah.
listening to fucking house music or some shit for the first time. And
Yeah.
what's that first gear? What's that first step you take to what was that like for you?
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I got my start very, very young. I was in percussion for a very long time. I got my start with drum set. I was playing, drum set with my praise and worship team at the church that I was going to. And my dad was very heavy into electronic music, and so he was, listening to a lot of progressive house music. And so he comes from a German background, which the German scene is very heavy hyped with, tons of techno and progressive house and that sort of vibe. So over time, I got very well versed in the technical side of things with, techno and progressive house and all that stuff, but also adapting very easy to understand subjects with the Christian styles that I was playing with the praise and worship. And, the cinematic style really came to be with my participation with band. I was in the drumline for many, many years. I was doing a lot of indoor drumline performances, a lot of on-stage performances, as well as playing for a various amount of number of audiences in various football fields and things like that. So that's where the cinematic side comes into play. With the, I guess, easy to understand language that really comes to play with my music and the identifiable themes that come along with it.
Yeah, that's so fucking. I feel like so many people have very similar. At least I've just run into a lot of people that like I've been intrigued by, and it's like, yeah, I've did drumline and like this and that and like orchestra music and because I did the same fucking thing.
Yeah,
and that was like my like, oh wow, like. Like it was totally subconscious at the same time because like I kind of like was like over like whatever about the orchestra music at the time. It was like, oh, this is pretty, but the school band fucking sucks. So
right.
It's like hard to like get into. We're trying to play the Inferno, and it's like a bunch of 16-year-olds. It's like it's kind of a mess, but I get it. It's pretty chill. But that was my also introduction to like ambient music and. I kind of did have like a little connection of like I started writing my own and like I would like pull themes from like the little classical pieces we were doing and it would kind of tie in together like because you could even say like Aphex Twin has that in some of their early works with like incorporating cinematic instruments and even like some rare Boards of Canada tracks you could say are super cinematic as well.
For sure.
And that was like my bread and butter growing up. So that was like, that's so crazy on how I find those parallels in a lot of people. So you started making your own stuff. Like your dad was a fucking influence. That's really awesome. Like my dad just liked prog rock and Metallica and shit.
Gotcha.
And so that just made me like weird rock and stuff. But I wish I had an influence for electronic music at an early age because it took me just downloading random Axe discoveries on Pirate Bay or some shit like in high school just be like what's this
completely understand
sick,
yeah thanks man. Yeah
like what was your first like gear like what was the first like you started making progressive house basically or what was that like?
Yeah, my first step with approaching this particular electronic genre was lounge and chill electronica music. I was listening to a lot of Blank and Jones, a lot of guys like that, and just became very well versed with it. I got a keyboard that was kind of like my first starter keyboard, my first introduction to a music production synthesizer. It was a Yamaha Mo X6. And, just plugged that up into, Cubase Artist and went to town, doing various, tempos and various styles.
What age was this?
Oh, man, I really didn't start diving into the production scene, I guess, until like late high school, early college days. That's when I started really like recording stuff and putting things on paper, I guess you could say. really hitting the ground running. So I guess it was like late high school, early college. I would say like low to mid 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like most people start they're weird either in like high school bands and shit, like garage bands, and then like the high school band breaks up and then they make their own electronic music or something.
100%.
Have you ever heard of Lemongrass?
I have, yeah.
They were like my biggest influence for music making because they were so diverse in their discography. So like, I think right around that same time for me, like being in like community college and shit, like just getting out of high school, like that was like all I wanted to do, but at the same time had no fucking clue how to make it. And like when you sit down and start making something, it doesn't turn into a Lemongrass song,
right?
But it was definitely like a influence for ambient music as well. That was like my introduction to like actual ambient music because I feels like I was still finding it with just like, ooh, this interlude is really nice. Like, ooh, this outro is super cool. Yeah, they were like my first, like that and like the Minecraft music guy, C418.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What do you influencing? Any people you have influences like of now that you take of or anything like that, or is your I don't know, anything like that going on cooking with you?
Yeah, all the time. I'm listening to a lot of people right now, a lot of close friends of mine, and with styles that are very out there. I'm listening to a guy named Tryptamine, who's a really good friend of mine. Imagine the Sea, who's a really good friend of mine.
I've heard of Imagine the Sea.
Yeah.
That sounds really familiar.
Yeah. He's a great guy. A lot of different artists, even cinematic artists like Ivan Torrent. He's a really good friend of mine. He is the actual influence of where I'm at, pulling a lot of these singers from. With all the singers that he's worked with, I vowed to present myself and establish that rapport and relationship very early on before any projects that I do. And so he's definitely a big influence of mine. Lauge is a really big ambient artist. He's amazing.
Oh,
yeah. Man from Mars, Unusual Cosmic Process.
They're cool too.
Yeah. So a lot of different styles that are influencing a lot of the things that I'm doing, and I guess you could say like, with a various amount of genres that kind of come into play there as well.
What was the whole like what was the push for vocal? Why the vocal push? Why doing all that?
Yeah, I wanted to do something different, man. A lot of ambient artists do a lot of compilations and collaborations and solo projects. I studied that really heavily in 2021 before I decided to, I guess you could call it my signature sound. Really trying to figure out what I can do that's creative, but it's also very different that a lot of other people aren't doing. And it took me a lot of time to really kind of understand the risk and reward factor that could come into play with this particular thing. Paying these vocal artists are pretty expensive. The level of quality that I'm doing with the mastering and post-production process is extremely superb and tuned to the finest of T's. And so I really wanted to come about it doing something very different. And I was like, who has done this before? Who has made a dramatic impact with vocal artist? And that was Ivan Torrent. And so I studied him very vigorously and was just like, who is he working with? And how can I get in touch with these people? And how will these singers, I guess you could say, like, effectively feel about this project? I had never worked with singers before. And so 2022 was the introduction to this like new signature wave of sound that I was doing with the vocal stuff. And so I was just like, like, I'm just going to go for it. And I reached out a year in advance. I planned everything every 3 months in 2022 to come out with a song with a vocal singer. And I had everything scheduled, everything ready. And man, it just happened, and it's transpired into a movement that even I didn't even understand. I was figuring, like, with me doing this thing in 2022, how is this going to resonate with other vocal singers? Are they going to like it? Are more people going to want to jump on board as easily as those other singers did? And man, I have found out that ambient music is the new hit wave for vocal singers to embellish on. It is just the new trending music right now. And so I wanted to kind of, I guess you could say, like, preemptively cause a movement, and it's starting to flow in a very good state, man, I must say.
I gotta say, I really appreciate when people talk about giving a shit about a signature sound. Like, that's awesome, because you don't hear that anymore. You hear people being like, it's gotta be like a banger, it's gotta fucking hit the chart, it's gotta slap, it's gotta XYZ.
Right.
It's gotta sound good, yes. But like, you don't hear a lot of talk about originality and like self-preservation within music, of being like, oh, I want to make these vocal ambient tracks to where they're cinematic and mastered to the T, to where it's like immediately you're like, oh, this could be a Michael D. Tidwell, or the other guy you mentioned,
Ivan Torrent.
What was his name? Ivan Torrent. And like, that's great. I think we need more people like that, and that's just made me really happy hearing that.
Thanks,
but
man.
I like to talk about the vocalist thing. I think you're absolutely right, because if you just take a look at where like vocalists are today, like, what are vocalists hitting up to do? It's like, especially like female vocalists, like, oh, we want you to either A, like, scream your fucking heart out on this pop track, or B, like, accent in this rap song, or another accent in this indie acoustic song, or whatever,
Right.
It's like there's not a lot of fun shit. Like, I feel like a fun vocal thing would be, hey, I got this ambient track, kind of do whatever. What you don't want to sound like shit. I know you don't want to sound like shit.
Right.
So just make yourself sound amazing, and we'll make this bag together and be really happy.
100%.
Like, it's like giving them a blank canvas. Like, that's how I feel about kind of giving, or asking people to hop on like a drum and bass track. It's like, there's space, just fucking say whatever, and we'll throw a delay on it, and boom, it's a collaboration.
Right.
And it's just like, there's not a lot of that nowadays, and I think that's really it's not surprising, but also surprising in a way of like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be hitting more people up to do ambient vocal things.
For sure.
Like, I do a lot of that myself, where I'll just grab the mic, throw some auto-tune, but there's always something completely different about getting a fantastic singer and having them just do their thing. And there's a couple tracks I've done where I've gotten a friend to come on and just like belt on top of like some crazy drone track, and it's like, fuck, this is the movie I will never make. Like, right here is so cool. And there was a couple times where like a song of yours came on, and I'm not gonna lie, I was like, this kind of sounds like the one thing I did, and then it became like a way better version of it. Because like all those vocal things I've done have been like 5+ years ago, and these are all very much like fresh ambient tracks you got here. Like, I think I love Love in Motion the most. That's something like I would probably make, or like attempt to make, in that like that style of like super blurry, sleepy. Oh man,
100%.
So fucking good.
Yeah, I gotta definitely got to give a shout out to Lakode on that one. He is the other ambient artist that I partnered up with on that. He was really, really incredible.
What's like your favorite like direction to go with these? Because I feel like there's so many, at least when I really get into the state of ambient writing, it's like, how, like, where do I want my brain to like put this? Like, because I'll listen to like obvious, like the ones that are titled more space, like have that space vibe to it, but then you put on like Centrion or something like really down to earth sounding, like Lost in the Woods. I thought was really great.
Thanks, man.
That's super cinematic, and like, so it's like, what's your favorite like direction to go, like when you sit down, or is it just kind of fluid and then you're like, oh, this sounds like this?
Yeah.
Like how does that work for you?
I'm very much of a dark guy. I love dark ambient music. I'm a very big fan. All things dark and cinematic. A lot of my favorite pieces, especially from movies, have always been inspired with a dark theme. I'm very much into like the psychological thrillers, the tension building, the anticipation building. That is kind of where my signature kind of comes into play, with building that cinematic anticipation for what's to come next. That's where a lot of the inspiration comes with my space-inspired tracks. A lot of those tracks that you'll hear, they're going to be very dark. They're going to be haunting in their sort of way, but there's also this prettiness that flows through that, and I really wanted to captivate that as well as I could, so that the singer can have really something to play with on that. Landed was something very experimental.
It starts super experimental.
I had no idea where I was going to go with this one. I had absolutely no clue, because I wanted to create the premise around this track is telling a story about a group of astronauts that travel to this distant planet and search for intelligent life. And this is the track that follows after Takeoff. I don't know if you've heard that one. Takeoff is really, really crazy. And
I think I did peep it at one point, but not recently. I think I listened to it yesterday.
It's all good. Yeah. That is the flight that takes place with the space shuttle to travel to this distant planet. And so Landed is effectively the planet that these astronauts land on. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, like I have to create a planet. And I didn't really know how to start or where to go. It just all kind of flowed in this natural sense. And one thing, just from the spaceship landing all the way to the first part where you hear the vocals, that was just like, okay, like I think I might have something here. So it was very experimental, man. So a lot of the stuff that I do is it very much starts on this dark side of things. And with the collaboration tracks, with Love in Motion, with what you brought up, that was kind of an experimental thing too. And I love collaborations and compilations, man. I mean, that's just kind of like my num de plum right now. And yeah, man, I love the dark stuff. I love it. But the pretty tracks, they kind of come unexpectedly. It's just kind of when I'm in a vibe, I'll lay down something a little bit more melodic or a little bit more major, and stray away from that minor side of things where I like to really be at. Like I'm very much into C minor, and all that kind of vibe. And so, those pretty tracks happen kind of unexpectedly. I don't really plan for those, especially now because I'm going a little bit more into the atmospheric side. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So are you going to continue this story and then like make it an album?
Yeah. So
So
the EP is called Ambient Atmospheres. It is a 6-song EP. There's going to be a total of 6 tracks on this, and we have 3 more that are expected after it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
So you're doing this whole astronaut story. Are you going to have like any type of accompaniment with it, or just this music, just music by itself? So
all of the tracks, all 6 tracks are going to feature a singer. The next track that I have coming out is with a singer called Airly Brighton. And after that, we have a singer called Nellie Monk, who just appeared on Ivan Torrent's recent album called Onria.
Wow.
Yeah, and then we have a very, very special singer named Victoria Gadov, and she is going to close out the project. And so we have 3 more coming out, so I'm excited for that one.
So a different singer on every track for the whole EP.
That's it.
That's something, man.
Thanks.
Wow. Whoa, fuck, dude. Like, that's a project, man.
Yeah.
And taken a big. So like, it's really expensive to be working with these singers, huh? Like, or are some of them like friends? I mean, I imagine that the one huge feature is gonna be a fucking thing. But damn, how do you get these people? You just email them? Like, what?
Yeah, a lot of the communication that I do is very much social media. I find out these person's Facebooks, and I find out their Instagrams. And
I think you looking dapper as hell in your profile picture too.
Oh, thanks.
Helps. Like,
yeah.
Like I'm dead ass. I've played Landed, and it starts that super experimental intro, and I'm like, from this guy, and I click your profile, and it's like you again in the suit. I'm just like, wow, this might be the most professional ambient artist I've seen.
That's it.
Of just like guy who has his shit together. Like, wow.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I reach out to them mainly over social media, man. I try to distinguish a very professional profile. I want everything to be very clean cut, very easy to understand, and very syncopated with all of my other profiles. So, you'll usually see me in a suit or some nice attire.
Especially in this day and age, where like music itself is a fucking worthless at this point.
Yeah,
like you have to sell yourself as more of like a company in a single entity of like, where you'll contact me and I'll be professional and give you a good product, and you can see all that in a glance. Not just like, I'm ambient dude 689, what's up? It's just Anybody could definitely portray that type of alias, man. I really wanted to come at it with a different perspective and kind of like an easy approach scenario, just so that when you do take that first glance, you're not going to be like, whoa, who the heck is this guy? You're going to be like, oh wow, this seems like a pretty on top of it individual, and I just want to kind of hear him out and see what he has to say. And a lot of what I do when it comes to the social media communication, it's very strategic. I don't do things very last minute. I'm very much a pre-planner. I'm already planning for 2024. You have to reach out to these singers and these artists and these collaborators, these curation people far in advance before anything ever happens. You definitely have to establish that relationship first. And so this time last year, I was preparing for this year. And so I had to really let them know about what was going on and, engage with their social media profiles, like and comment and ego build. Ego building is something that's very underplayed in the music business. You have to let people know that they're doing a great job, and if you don't do that and you're not present in their profiles, then they're not going to see you. So that was a really big strategic move that I had to do early in advance, is reach out to these singers at least a year from now, prior to the project, to build that relationship and kind of like introduce the idea, introduce those feelings that they'll be subjectively singing out. And so it worked out really well, man. And the formula is pairing very, very well. Would you say you're in the whole licensing game with this stuff? Like, are you working with labels, or is this all self-release? I mean, I can see they're self-released on Spotify, but I don't know if like that's in the works or if you've done that before. I mean, like, these all seem so like well done enough to be licensed music. Is that something you're aiming for, working on? What's up with, how's that for you?
Yeah, the game plan for me is to retire making music for movies and video games. That is my long-term goal. That is where I see myself in the next 25 30 years plus, is doing music for major motion pictures. So that cinematic style that you're hearing, that you feel, that is what I'm gauging towards. Right now, I am not focused on doing any licensing at the moment. I am building relationships right now with different publishing companies and different people. But right now, I'm solely focused on making the best music that I can for myself. There are even labels that I'm in talks with for next year's projects that I got something big planned. So there's a lot of things that are being done. There's a lot of hands that are being shaken. But yeah, I mean, that's the long-term goal, is to be in movies and video games. But right now, I really just want to make the best music that I can at the moment.
Awesome. So what's your whole opinion on...
Well, hey, Paul, I can't hear you, man.
Oh, shit, really? How about now?
Mm-mm.
No? Mm-mm. One sec. Oh, man, nothing changed on my end. Maybe this helps?
Yep, there you go.
How about this?
Yep.
Okay, that was dumb. Anyway. Damn it. I normally don't... I might just leave that shit in. If you're listening, thanks for dealing. Fuck off. Whatever. So, what was I going to say? So, yeah, so promoting yourself in general, like, how do you feel that works for you? Because I see you do a lot of posting. Like, you did a good, like, social media run for Landed. There was a bunch of posts for it. Like, how does that work out? Like, have you started, like, always having these visuals, and like, what are you just grabbing Pexels footage, chopping them up, and throwing them on social medias? Like, basically, is that how it goes? Like, what's your process for it? So
I do what's called, and that's a great question, by the way. So I do what's called a 2x2 method. So the 2x2 method is a 2-week pre-release, the release day, and a 2-week post-release. The 2x2 method has really, really helped me to gauge, in a sense, of projecting as much material out as I can, while also keeping, very conservative and not doing too much. I don't want to overload my social media accounts, but I want to let people know that I'm posting, I'm doing stuff. Here you go. But yeah, I do find a lot of things online, and I'll pretty much just attach my little stuff to it, and it is what it is. But yeah, it is a lot of online content. I'm not going to tell you where I get that content.
I mean, I'm a vaporwave artist.
Nice.
Like, you're speaking to the choir, man. It's taking content
yeah,
and repurposing it.
But it works. It's really fueled my social media in the most profitable way. I was trying to come up with a system where, I could maintain relevancy, but not look too cheesy. So attaching my music on these like 30-second clips, these 25-second clips, what have you, really pairs for a great release, so that, I can put out something every day and it's really good quality. It sounds great. It looks great. There you go.
So you're posting every day? I
try to post every day. I did take a social media break for about a month, not too long ago, but yeah, I'm posting every day. At least while I have these new singles ramping up. Yeah, I mean, you can definitely expect to post every day.
Okay, cool. Like, I always try to, like, gauge people's social media, what's the word? Fucking...
Yeah, consistency.
Consistencies and, like, what they do to get to where they are. And it's always interesting hearing people's different, like, processes, and, like, never heard the 2x2, but that sounds like a great way to go about things. That's interesting as fuck.
Yeah, thanks.
What's your you got the EP cooking, and you got some other things in the works. So how far out do you typically, like, a year? Like, a year is, like, you'd probably say. Yeah. Dang.
If you're gonna, so here's how I look at it. If you're gonna be making music consistently, you need to have a game plan. Whether that is 1 month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now. What has effectively worked for me, especially when working with singers, is to have a 12-month calendar. You need to have a clear layout of how you're going to be releasing this type of music. And you have to be consistent, and you have to have a plan. You have to make sure that you have the music recorded, and you're sending it off to the singer at this time. You get the return vocals at this time. You upload it to online at this time. You have to have it all strategically laid out, every single release. This is why having things done a year ahead of time, at least for me, has been the most profitable. Just because it's something that I don't have to worry about. If I already have the relationships and the artists that I'm going to be collaborating with, the record label that I'm going to be partnered up with, I can effectively make much better music because I'm not having to figure out all those logistics after the fact, because that's so scary, is that you have this piece of content that's so beautiful and so awesome, and yet you're scrambling on trying to figure out where to put it, rather than already having that process in place. And now, since you have the song already done, it's uploaded at this time and all that's good to go. Now you can do the fun stuff where you're promoting it, you're reaching out to blogs and magazines and radio stations, and you can effectively do that. And since I'm putting out so much material every single year, I have to be a year ahead in advance. If you're not ahead, you're falling behind.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I post too much fucking music a year myself, to where like I'm in like a weird clusterfuck of things, to where like things will be done for like a year, and then but like I'll work on other things in the meantime, and then it's like, okay, I think it's time to put this out. But like it all depends on what I'm doing, because I'll have like big releases, big albums where I'm like, this is going to be something, so I'm going to have merch made and send it to this label and blah, blah, blah. And then there's like, whatever, I made this for myself, and I also know there's not really a place for this, like, anywhere.
Right.
Like, making fucking IDM in our 2023 year of our Lord, like, is not the fucking move if you want to get some listeners. Like, no one's really that into it if you're making some, yeah, dude, this sounds like straight out of the 90s. It's like no one gives a shit.
Right.
So, like, I have, like, these two schools, basically, and I'm always just kind of, like, diving in between them. But, like, hearing that, I mean, like, this has been on my agenda for a while. It's to where I'm trying to just get all this content I have already done. Like, in my laptop right now, I have fucking like 10 to 23 albums done, and I'm just like, I don't want to make more music, so and like add to that pile. So this year I've just been taking time for myself, and then also just being like, okay, you're up, and then put it out, Ray for music, and then send it out and promote it when it's out. And then like a time goes by, it's like, okay, next one. And I've just been doing that like this whole year, and it's been good. But hearing you talking, like, being like, and I can just make the best music I can make, I can't wait to where I have like that time again. I just want to get all this shit out first before I start and be like, okay, now here's the best song I've made yet. Like right now, like starting totally fresh. Like, I'm envious of that because I've dug myself this hole, which I love. I love doing this. I as Forest Kids Collective, I can release literally any style I want and do. And a lot of it does pretty well for like being able to release over like 200 tracks a year at least. It's fucking stupid. And it's just because all I want to do is write more.
Right.
And I forget about the whole like professional side of things, or I'll get comfy and like be in with a label and know I can just send them shit and they do it all basically. And all I have to do is a couple posts, and then I turn around and it's like, oh wow, 100K plays or whatever the fuck. Like, I can't wait to get into your situation basically, to where it's just, all right, here's a new song with nothing. I have nothing else to give the world right now. So I have to make a brand new song for the world. Like, how long does it take you to make one of these compositions?
Wow.
Like, and then what is like, you're promoting it. How long until you're like, okay, done promoting this song, done with that song, I'm gonna write another one. Like, What's that timeline look like for you?
Yeah. So, and that's a very good question. Yeah, definitely going back to that 2x2 method has really been the most effective strategy for me. Is the 2-week pre-release, the release day, and the 2-week post-release, to where I already have the song made, everything is already done, and I'll have 2 weeks to build the anticipation or the hype prior to the release day. And so it's about 2 weeks on and then 2 weeks off. And then
as soon as those 2 weeks off, you're like, okay, keyboard.
Yeah. So a lot of the times I'll have the song that I'm releasing after that 2-week period already done in advance. I'm closing out the process with my mastering engineer. Anything that I need to do preemptively to set up that next release, I've already taken that step ahead of time. As something that I'm currently promoting, there's already something else in the works.
Okay, so like you'll be promoting Landed, and you'll be writing music at the same time.
That's it, man. That's it.
See, I think I have to be fucking binary with it because I get so lost in my own sauce to where like I have to be like, okay, I'm not talking about Landed ever again until you bring it up to my face. On to the next thing.
Yeah.
That's like oh man. I've just been lost in the sauce and been looking at like all these super cohesive artists like yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just like, shit.
That's what
I wanted to do times 27.
Yeah, and you still can, man. I mean, that's where, like I said, that's where that 2x2 method really helps, because it really comes to make things a lot easier for you in the process. Like for Landed, for example, the release day happened a couple of days ago on the 26th. So 2 weeks prior to that, I was, making content and doing anything that I needed to do for that to promote it. And now that it's released, I'll do content for 2 weeks after that. And then after that, yeah.
No, keep going.
Yeah, and so
I just thought of something.
And so after those 2 weeks, you're exactly right. I'm not going to necessarily like archive Landed per se, but I am going to set up the pre-release period for the next song, which will come out the following month.
But you basically do. Like, you're not going to have another post on Landed after those 2 weeks.
Generally, no. If I do, it's what I call a collage post, which will showcase all of the different playlists that I'll get feed. Yeah. Or
like a recap or some shit. Like, hey, I've released these songs this year.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that, or I'll post like a YouTube video. Here's like the official music video for it.
Okay.
And that's pretty much about it. After that, I'm on to the next one.
So making all, like, you, say you post every day.
Yeah.
Do you sit down one day and make your 14 assets or whatever? Or is that like okay, gotta make the thing for today. Gotta make the thing for today.
I try to.
Like, how does that?
Yeah, and that's a great question too. I sometimes do that whenever just the right day comes. But usually I'll set myself up for a couple of days ahead of time. I'll pretty much have the reel in place, and then all I have to do is just do the write out on social media. And so, yeah, sometimes that happens to where like I'll do a full line of the 2 weeks and the other 2 weeks.
Just airdrop them to your phone and just have them in your fucking photos ready to go. Right.
I do come into a hindrance with that sometimes, though, because sometimes I'll go back and look at the reel and I'll be like, well, maybe I can insert, something else there, or maybe I can insert like a different part of the song and it might sound better. So I used to do that, where I used to, have all the reels all lined up, ready to go. But sometimes different days, come with different inspirations and different vibes. And so I do it about a couple of days in advance rather than overloading myself just with doing all of those 2 weeks of reels. You know what I'm saying?
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It does get that, like, man, I'm fucking posting another one of these. Like, and by like the fourth one that you loaded onto your phone, you're like, shit, it's the same thing as the first one now. We've looped back already or whatever.
Right.
I've been that way. Like, I did what is it? a year and like a quarter ago, I do this series called Ambient Fingers, where I'll take two of my aliases, ambient or not, and take like whatever makes them signature, and then like make those signatures ambient forms of themselves, and then make it like this collaborative album to where like say I have like a drone metal project and like a folk project, and so that together made like this drone western distorted ambient album, and it's like super like, oh yeah, that's exactly what they would be if they did the fucking fusion dance and became an ambient album. So I did that. I did like this whole western theme album, and I like made like all this western reels and had it loaded on my phone, and like by the third one I'm like, who fucking's watching these, man? This is nothing. This is so nothing. So I totally feel that like you just got to think of something different every day and kind of go with the flow. It's I'd say that's way more work than any other process of this.
Yeah.
I think like emailing people is great because you're like, oh shit, this is a cool place. Now at least I know of this place that I'm emailing. Like making social media is just like farting in the wind. It's kind of a lost cause.
I understand. It's really just to let people know that you're still doing it. You know, that's really what I kind of relay it back to is like, you know, I'm still present. You know, I don't want you guys to forget about me. I want you guys to know that I'm still making content, still making music. And it also poses for a better relationship with anybody that I reach out to in the future. If I am, you know, present on social media, it makes for a more enticing introduction rather than it's been like, you know, some months, some weeks, and you haven't seen anything from me, and then I'm like reaching out. It's just like, who is this guy? So I really want to do that for mainly for relevancy. But you're right. You know, it is a job, and it is one of those things that it's just like, oh my gosh, here we go. But, you know, you have to do it. It's just a consistency thing, and you got to stay disciplined with it.
I know, it's rough.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get on that, find a good pattern, find a good, like, what works for me.
Yeah.
For social media, like, I think I found that for YouTube on, like, how to just, like, schedule shit out and, like, what works, what doesn't work.
Absolutely.
And it's slowly climbing up, but like, man, social media, I'll try something different every couple of months, and I'm just like, hey, this kind of works,
right? And
then it just stops working. You're like, all right, time to show my face again, and be like, hey, algorithm, fucking show my shit to people. I release a thing,
right?
God damn it,
right.
Cassettes are waiting.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Do you have any desire to get physicals for your things eventually, like do a big old vinyl release or cassette release for your stuff or something?
Yeah,
or CD?
definitely in the years to come, I really want to explore that. You know, getting vinyl records made. Cassettes are so hot right now. Yeah,
and they're cheap as fuck.
cheap as all get out, man. And yeah, I mean, that's
hire like some dope Photoshop man, like. Check out No Problema Tapes.
Okay.
Do you know them?
No, I don't.
Oh, man. They're the coolest, one of the coolest labels I've had the pleasure of working with. And the artists they get for their cassette designs, it's like out of a... It looks like video game covers or like magazine covers. And it's just like so... Just like all like the text is so in there and like creatively done.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never seen cassettes like this, and I'm like, yeah, you guys should absolutely charge what you're charging for those, because those look amazing. Like, hold up, I can grab you the one.
Sure.
I'll show you. This is like a solo piano record that's like dream tone, and like this is like the cover.
Ooh.
But like the real magic is here, like all this shit. Like this is what I mean by like, look how intricate all those little designs are. People listening are like, what the fuck, dude, seriously? But like, go to No Problema Tapes and check out their design, like the fucking color palette.
Yeah, that's cool.
It looks like a magazine.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like more people should design their stuff like this, and like Like the Obi strip, it's like straight out of Japan. It's the coolest shit in the world.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah, I've never seen a label go this hard for cassette design. So like I feel like people underhandedly do that stuff. It's like just take one extra step,
Right,
and make those fucking incredible. Like that'd be super cool. Because like I was gonna say, the Centurion cover, has that like aesthetic.
Yeah.
And like I could see like a tape looking like with all like the text and shit at the bottom, all the gobbledygook. Like that would look amazing on a cassette pack or something, you know?
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
That was that cover was designed by Sentient Design, which are partnered with the record label Imaginary North in Toronto, Canada. So definitely got to give a big shout out to Sentient Design for that one.
Yeah, hit them up for some. I might hit them up. Like, I'm in contact with some people lately of like trying to get my Bandcamp page redone. So like, I want some crazy artists to like do it up because I'm a fucking fool when it comes to Photoshop.
Absolutely.
All right, dude. Well, this is pretty great of a place to end. Would you want to promote your stuff and like where can people find you?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me on all platforms at Michael D. Tidwell. And I got a lot of cool stuff coming out. I got 2 record label releases coming out next month. One with Imaginary North, which I just mentioned, and one with a record label out in France called Mare Nostrum. And those are going to be coming out pretty soon. And I got something really, really special planned for next year. Y'all stay tuned.
Fuck yeah, dude. And that pretty much answers all the questions I was going to say. Thanks so much for tuning in. And who knows who we'll have next time. There might be a Q&A on Spotify. Fucking give me a suggestion. You're listening. I see you listening. Give me a suggestion. All right. Bye.